Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series, and we'll be looking at a very interesting topic. The title of our topic today is Managing Human Resources Across Multiple African Countries. Managing human resources across multiple human resources. Our facilitator for tonight is Mr. Anthony Agbayeka. Professionally, when you operate across multiple African countries, you need to pronounce names across different geographies too. Is the Senior Executive Human Resource Officer at Daewoo Technology. Also pronounce that professionally. I suspect the BA. And let me just speak a bit about our facilitator. The prestigious Ambrose Ali University in Edo State. MBA business is absolutely nothing.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Oluyemi, for that brief introduction. You're all welcome to this session. First and foremost, I want to thank Mr. Oluyemi and his team for the noble initiative they have put off to ensure that HR practitioners gain knowledge and capacity of HR practitioners within the HR space in Nigeria are enhanced. Thank you very much for that. And I can tell you for free that people are currently building on the shoulders, standing on the shoulders of people who have expertise in HR to gain knowledge, which will have taken their years to know about HR. Thank you very much for this. And I can also tell you this is a generational impact that you are making, and I pray that God bless you and your team. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you. We try not to waste your time because we know you have actually dedicated your valuable time to join this session. Thank you. And we will not be here without you. And I know some of you, thank you for giving us this opportunity to bring this session to your devices, to your home. And I know some of us are stuck in traffic, but that notwithstanding, we are also permitted to join and to contribute your when it's time to ask question and contribution. Thank you all. Say good evening to everyone. For I'm not ignorant of the fact that there may be some persons who are joining us from a geographical area that is different from ours. If your time zone is morning or afternoon, I say good morning to you and good afternoon. For some of us who are operating in the same time zone, good evening to everyone. You're all welcome. We'll be talking basically on what it takes to manage HR across multiple Africa countries tonight. And you are also permitted to say how to manage human capital across multiple Africa countries. Last week, this week, Wednesday, we had an interview in my office, and we had, after the interview, my colleague was asking me, what does it take to manage, how difficult is it to manage Nigeria people? And I said, okay, it is difficult, and it's also very pretty easy to manage people. And I also draw his attention to know the fact that irrespective that human beings are not machines, they are not computer that you input certain instruction in and you have a predetermined outcome, that human beings are dynamic and their behavior cannot be predicted. That even in his country that it comes from, the people are also very difficult to manage in as much they have their own will and they can determine what they want. However, in ensuring that people are managed, there are things that need to be put in place. And I believe that is why we are here today. What are the things that guide human interaction? What are the things that guide human behavior across, if you are to deal with people and manage them effectively? Managing HR people, managing human capital across multiple Africa countries, especially where you are not with them, you are not on the same location with them, and you have to manage them virtually. You have to manage, excuse me, you have to manage them virtually. You have a greater responsibility to ensure that you manage them for the sake of the company and for your own sake as well. First thing that we must do, which is the foundation of to manage people across multiple Africa countries, is that you must, as an HR practitioner, you must know the law of various countries. My introduction. Okay. Let's begin. My introduction is that managing HR across multiple African countries can be very complex and critical and challenging task. HR professionals need to understand the cultural, legal, and economic differences between each country. HR managers need to develop strategies and practices that can effectively manage their workforce across different cultural, legal, and regulatory framework. This presentation will provide insight into best practice for managing HR in Africa. One of the key challenges in managing HR across multiple Africa countries is ensuring compliances with local laws and regulations. Each country has its own set of laws and regulations regarding employment, including labor law, social security law, and tax law. HR manager must be familiar with these regulations and ensure their policies and practices are in compliance with them. Failure to comply can result in legal liability, financial penalty, and reputational damage. As an HR practitioner who have the vision to work for a multinational company that operates across various territories in Africa, you must live above board. You must be knowledgeable. You must keep abreast of the laws of the country you tend to operate in, or you tend to manage people in. And our responsibility as HR personnel is to ensure that we advise management on critically on strategic decisions that are being taken, because they will say HR wear many cap. HR manager personnel wear many cap. HR manager is a doctor, is a legal practitioner, is a driver, is a business developer, is a salesperson, is a software engineer, and all that. However, as an HR personnel, you must know the law, because everything you are going to be dealing with in those countries is based on their law. You cannot take the law of those countries out of context without you applying it. And that's where the penalty, if you do that, what you invariably be doing, you will be exposing your company to litigation, financial penalty, and also regulating deformity. So for that not to happen, because when eventually that happens, nobody is going to blame anybody. It's you, particularly because they expected the person, the HR personnel, to know about that, the law of those countries. For instance, their law, according to our labor law, they are different from Ghana law. They are different from Benin Republic, different from Cote d'Ivoire, different from Egypt. So if you have that aspiration to working for multinational and they are operating in various countries, whether be it in the Central Africa, West Africa, Western Africa, Southern Africa, East Africa, North Africa, you must know their law, because that is the foundation. the interaction, the recruitment, training, the employment engagement, all these are clearly spelled out in their various labor law. You cannot adopt the particular country law, labor law, to fit into another country. Yeah, they may have similarity, but however, their laws put into consideration their culture and also their activities. So you must know their law to really advise management. Recently, I was watching a documentary. In that documentary, I saw that a multinational company, if you must have known, you know the company because there is an FMCG. So every of their goods is in the shelf in the market if you go there. But one interesting thing about this company is that there were many infractions that has to do with child abuse and also regulatory irregularity. And I believe a company of such have an HR practitioner who would have advised that it is wrong to engage children in their plantation. Not only is it against the law, it's also against, it's an inhuman heart for you to engage a child to work, to do the job that an adult will have done. So it is the responsibility of the HR personnel to advise, clearly documented and stated it is wrong if the management don't know. So that's why we must know the law as HR practitioner. So another thing apart from the law, which is the knowing the regulatory complexity. Every industry in every country has their regulatory body, which they report to and which set standard for them to operate in such country. So for instance, if your company is into manufacturing, there are regulatory body in those countries that they must get certification from before they can set up companies in or set up facility in those countries. And when they have done that, for that to produce, there are also regulatory body that will send the standard for quality assurance to ensure that the goods they are producing are not harmful to human consumption. So you, as an HR practitioner, is the responsibility of that HR practitioner to ensure that the regulatory requirements of the industry they are operating in are met. Even if the company might not necessarily meet 100%, because even in law, there's a minimal requirement that must be met before anything can be done. So ensure that the company meets the minimal requirement, above the minimal requirement before forging ahead. So each African country has its own unique set of labor laws and regulations. Understanding regulatory complexity is essential to ensure compliances and avoid legal issues. To avoid legal exposure and litigation, HR managers must keep abreast of new legislation enacted by various countries' legislatures. So, for instance, if you are the head of HR, you oversee various branches or various country HR. One of the best way to keep abreast of what is happening in those countries, like what I do, we hold a meeting every Monday with my team across the region and managers, West Africa. One of the questions I usually ask them to keep myself abreast of their law, labor law, I ask them, okay, has there be any law that will be enacted by your legislature that we need to put into our policies so that we will not be exposing ourselves to litigation? That is one of the clever ways for you to expose it, for you to get updates from your team members who are in those countries. Okay, if you are not ready to go through that direction, Google is your friend. You can simply, okay, in this law, in this country, what are the laws that have been set up so time? Because in my company, we review our policy every 6 months. So if in the last 6 months, the policy that was made, if it was not adopted, it become obsolete. That means it has become obsolete. So we need to keep our best updating our policy every 6 months. So getting your team members to give you information of their laws there, and also let Google also be your friend. After all, the world has become a global village. So there is nothing under the surface of the earth that is hidden right now that you cannot access in as much you are dedicated and you pay you dedicate to get the information. You know, one thing is this: whatever you are looking for, you get in as much you pay the price. So hold meeting with your team members. Let them give you updates of what the laws are saying. I don't know how many of us are aware in this November, there was a general law, a general policy that was gazetted by the Secretary to the Federation about paternity leave, that going for from that time, effective from the time November, that all May civil servants are entitled to 40 days annual leave for the first two child that are giving birth to within 2 years. So that became automatic, though we are not civil servants, but I leverage on that to inculcate that into our policy, internal policy. And though nobody has benefited from it yet, but it has become our policy. So these are the basis you can develop your policies without you stressing yourself. Okay, apart from holding meetings with your team member, using the illustrations and also getting feedback from your team members as well, you can also consult your colleagues in various countries to know what is happening there. Belong to forums of different countries where you can easily access information that you know that is important to your company in that country, so that you can be able to advise your management. And one beautiful part of this is that when you are effectively be able to inform your management on time, you save cost. Not only that will you save cost, you also save the company for legal exposure. Okay, then apart from the legal law, which is the foundation, there are things you need to put in place for you to be able to effectively manage people. Set a standard. Let it be that the standard that the HQ uses is the same standard anywhere. It's not like you have a standard in Nigeria, and when you cross over to Benin Republic, you have a different standard. Let it be whatever policy you are formulating, let it be a countrywide policy that wherever you step into, in as much your company is there, is the same policy anywhere. So in such a way, when somebody sees any of your staff behaving, he knows that possibly that could also be happening in somewhere, because the same policy that must be effected. So standardize your HR process, standardize your HR process. If it's recruitment, one way of recruiting people, let it be done across board. It's not as if people are recruiting in different direction, and when you come to this country, it's a different ball game. Let it be something that is known to the employee or your representative in those countries, that this is the direction of the company. As a matter of fact, once you have a policy, let it be documented, share it across the countries that your company operates, especially the HR representative in those countries. Let it share with the staff there, so they will be aware of the standard that is required of them in those countries, irrespective of where they are, whether they are in the HQ, whether they are in their various location or not. So everybody will be aware, oh, this company, this is what we do, these are the benefits attached to it, these are our method of performance review and all that. Okay, standardize the HR policy. Let this why it is important to tailor HR practice to each country. It is also important to standardize HR processes where possible. This can help ensure consistencies and fairness across multiple African countries and make it easier to manage HR practice across different locations. The beautiful part of it, of you standardizing your HR policy, is that you will find it difficult to implement anything, because you will rack your brain. Oh, what do I need to do for this country? What do I need to do for this certain staff in this country? You will do that because it's already standardized. What is applicable to where you are is the same thing all over. So it's much easier for you to say, okay, at the tip of the bottle, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to send a mail to this person, let him know what is entitled to and as such. But in doing that, you must also put the peculiarity of that country in place in consideration. Another thing that you need to know if you are effectively going to manage people across multiple countries is that you must know about their culture. It's expected that with research as HR personnel, you should be a cultural advocate. You should be culturally aware of where you operate. There are certain laws, let me take Nigeria, not a part of Nigeria, for instance, that are not, you cannot really implement because of their culture. Okay. I also am aware there are other African countries that are certain laws that are not permissible. So you must be aware of the kind of law that are permissible in those kind of culture that are permissible in those countries before you can actually begin to make nationwide policy. And now one of the beautiful part of it, if you are to do that, put into consideration the peculiarity, the cultural peculiarity of that country, you can say as when you are making a nationwide, countrywide policy, you can simply put a caveat to it as applicable to also countries, so that whoever reads this will know that this one is applicable, cultural wise, is applicable to my country, so that everybody will be on the same page. You will be having employees who are disgruntled thinking that you are trying to rubbish their culture. So it's very important. Africa is a continent of diverse cultures and traditions, and as such, understanding cultural differences is crucial when managing HR across multiple African countries. It is important to take into consideration and be culturally aware of the interaction, behavior and conduct, peculiarity, and provide tips on how to navigate cultural differences in the workplace. HR managers should take the time to learn about the cultural norms and values of each country they are working in and tailor their HR practice accordingly. So don't just say, oh, because it's doable in one country, I believe if I implement the same thing there is doable. I'll give you an instance. In Nigeria, for instance, in the northern part, you cannot really say, okay, let me shake a female, cultural wise, or let me embrace a female. But there are certain countries, embracing the opposite sex is allowed. Shaking the opposite sex is permitted. So you must be able to define the cultural boundary and be culturally aware of what is permissible in those countries. Like Northern Africa, for instance, you probably will not put a software engineer or technical engineer, telecom engineer in a shift on Friday, because definitely the person will not come to work. He's going to the mosque. So it's good to observe a day off. So you must be aware of this. Oh, certain people are not allowed to come to work in so day because of their culture, because of their religion. So you have to now begin to balance. Oh, we have this is a more Islamic nation. We probably should have someone, another religion, to cover up for that person in that certain day. So be aware of that will make the job much easier and be able to manage people. But if you are not culturally aware or religionally aware about that, you're going to be creating trouble for the company instead of actually be the solution provider. So it's very important for you to also be able to be aware. Don't just be an HR who knows his job but doesn't know what goes on around him or her. Be culturally aware. Okay. It's a cross-cultural communication. You must communicate to people in clear terms. Don't assume. Don't work in assumption. Oh, yeah, I believe in my country, and this is how we do it. So if I do it, if I communicate to somebody this way, I believe the person will understand. The person may not understand you, may not be in the same language with you. I remember when we usually, when I recently joined this position, when I employ in this capacity. Whenever we hold a meeting every Monday, because of the language barrier, some of them will be speaking French. I need somebody to interpret to me, right? So there was no effective communication then. Even the person that will be interpreting might be interpreting the wrong thing. So that comes to me to go and do what? To go and learn French. All right. So that is one of the benefits also. Cross-cultural communication, communicate effectively so that people will know. Don't just work in the person understand, you are working assumption. What if the person doesn't understand what you are saying? Get somebody who can interpret the language, if there's language barrier, who can interpret that same language to the person in a clean tense. Or if that is not possible, you can do Google's translation. Type the message on Google Translation, translate it to the language you want that person to understand. The person can be able to read it effectively so that you guys will be on the same page. Now, as if, oh, I sent you a mail, the person said, I didn't understand. Because you wrote it in the language I could not understand. So it's very important. Effective communication is essential and critical for managing HR across multiple African countries. HR managers should establish clear communication channels and protocols for communicate with employees across different locations. This can help ensure that everyone is on the same page and working towards the same goals. HR professionals should also be aware of language barriers and consider providing language training for employees. One of the structure of not be on the same page when there is language barriers, like a cat who is before the horse. And when the cat is before the horse, you definitely that horse will not go forward. So the company is the horse and the barrier there is the cat. If the cat is in front of the company because of language barrier, there is no how the goals of that company will be achieved because they are not working together. They don't understand themselves. It's just like a team with different people of different skills, different talents, but here there is no coach to effectively coach them and direct them in the path they should go. So that is the responsibility of HR practitioner as a coach to be able to navigate the difficulty that they will face to ensure that everybody is on the same page and achieving the same goal. He also talked about understanding the differences. Africa is a diverse continent with over 50 countries, each with unique cultural, legal, and economic system. HR professional must understand these differences to effectively manage HR in each country. Research and analysis of each country is essential to understand the various HR challenges that may arise. Before now, I used to think Lagos is very expensive to live in. And I also I was thinking that Lagos has traffic was very, very cumbersome. But recently I discovered that it's not actually true that Lagos is expensive to live. Côte d'Ivoire, for instance, Abidjan, the capital city, is to get a house that is more expensive to live in than in Lagos. And the traffic situation is more difficult compared to Lagos. So if you don't have this background information, you could be making policy, you could be making in terms of compensation and benefits, and be putting somebody who is in Nigeria, for instance, and somebody who's in Côte d'Ivoire on the same level without even considering their economic balance, whether if the level of per capita. So you should also be able to get this societal interaction of what goes on in those countries you manage. Don't make laws like, for instance, in Côte d'Ivoire, for instance, is clearly stated in their labor law that the employer of labor in those countries must provide transport facility for them. And it states the minimum requirement. However, in Nigeria, it's not so. In Nigeria, labor law is advisory that the employer of labor can provide transport facility for employee who goes beyond 10 kilometers from their place of abode to place of work. So, but in another country, they have made it compulsory. So it's not even negotiable, it's mandatory. But in another country, it's not mandatory. So employer can just say, okay, after all, I employ somebody who is close to my house. In the next, he's not going to go beyond 10 kilometers. So why should I pay a transport facility for that person? Make transport facility available for that person. So you should be able to know what the law says, what is applicable in those countries before you begin to manage people. For instance, also in Ghana, it stated that in terms of leave management, that an annual leave for any employee who want to embark on annual leave, the employer must give 30 days notice before the leave. The employer cannot just wake up one day and say, okay, I think you are due for leave, you are to embark on leave. No, the employer must give 30 days notice to that employee to embark on leave. So if you are not aware of this, and you have a worker and you feel like the person have not gone for leave for years, and you just wake up and say, okay, you know what? The next day, because we have a duty of care or ensuring that our employee are fit, are physically fit and they're mentally fit, we are giving you leave. No, that's not what the law says. The law says give them a month notice. So notice the challenges as well. In terms of also recruitment, I believe across board, also in the international convention, international labor law state that you cannot employ a child and you cannot employ a minor, and they define a child as somebody who is below the age of 16 and 18 years. However, in Nigeria, though what they state is actually not right because they were using worker, not employee. They put into consideration workers and not employee, but practically and in reality, you cannot employ somebody who is under 18, because if somebody by 18 cannot be employed, somebody by 18 cannot join the military, somebody by under 18 cannot join the police force. Definitely in terms of recruitment, the person must not be below 18 years. So you must know this for you to be able to guide so that you will run into legal waters. Recruiting and retaining top talent is a challenge in Africa. Building a relationship with local community, investing in employee training, development, offering competitive compensation and benefits, an effective way to attract and retain employees. Additionally, working with local experts can be an effective way to manage HR across multiple African countries. HR managers should consider partnering with local HR professionals or consultants who have a deep understanding of local law, labor market laws, and customs. Like, for instance, my company, we don't have a rep, a HR rep in Senegal, for instance, but we use a consulting firm because we believe the consulting firm will be able to do that job effectively and knows the laws and custom of that country. So if peradventure you cannot manage effectively in countries above your board or a certain country, you can engage professionals, you can engage consultants to do the job on behalf of the company and report to you effectively. So that's where you can be able to, you are sure that there's somebody who is carrying that body of the employee in those countries where you don't really have personnel to HR personnel to do that. So one of also the difficult challenges of recruiting, especially when you don't have somebody there, is that and you don't have a consultant, is a very big challenge. I remember I posted a job on LinkedIn on one of the country we manage. It took 3 days for 10 CVs for me to receive 10 CVs. But if we are to be Nigeria, in the next hour or 30 minutes that I posted that job, I would have received more than 50 CVs. Because, you know why? Because the resources are there. So in other countries, the resources might not be readily available. So that is why you need to work with consultants who knows the people, the channel to get the people to be employed. You might be using the wrong channel. You might think everybody in that sector, the age bracket you want to employ are on the internet. They have access to internet, and you post it on the internet for them to apply. You'll be wrong. You'll be amazed that you get fewer CV, and the CVs that you will get will not be useful. And out of those 10 that I told you earlier that I got, out of the 10, it was just 2 that were relevant to what we are looking for. And when we did the interview, we discovered they didn't actually have the required skills. So it's important for you to do that through the consultants who know much about their people, about the locals, and they'll be able to guide you on how to get the right skills for your organization. And also for performance management, managing people in different countries, you just like setting the right policy across country. let the performance management system also be the same anywhere your company operates in. It's not that some person in performance management, they have got certain scores and the benefit is different from what the other people will get. Let it be the same. However, you also have to put peculiarity of setting maybe bonuses, but let the same reward come. But in setting bonus, you can also, okay, because of this country, cost of living is different, so I need to include these to make it basically happy. So let the performance system be fair to all. Let communicate to them what is expected of them. Communicate to them, let them know from offset, this is what, if I do this on my part, this is what the company will give me. And if if I'm succeed in this aspect, this is what my benefit will be. The promotional level, let it be known to everyone. The promotion part, let everybody know, oh, at this level, if you achieve this, you get this. Like, for instance, where I work, we have our performance management system that states that if you achieve 90% of that, we'll do it twice yearly, every 6 months. So if you achieve 20% annually, 10% in the first 6 months, you get 10% rise in bonus and salary. In the other set of the other second leg, if you get 90% consistently, just like the first set, you also get 10% increment of your salary, your bonuses, and you gain a promotion. So if everybody is aware of this, this is what I'm entitled to. If I score 90, I'll get 10%. In the second half of the year, if I score 90 consistently also, I get 10%. Not only will I get 10% of increase of my salary and bonuses, I will also be promoted to the next level, and I will earn what that same level is entitled, what that person in that level is entitled to. So everybody is aware of what they get. So it's not that when you see somebody is being promoted next because he performed sessionally and it constantly meets his targets, you are jealous of the person, you are thinking if everybody is biased. No, everybody is already know. So it's not left for the employee to now work towards achieving his aim, but let everybody know, let it be across board, let it be fair, let the promotion part be clearly stated and be spelled out to everyone, that every employee across the nation. Let him know that even though you might be anywhere in Africa, you might be in North Africa, if you consistently do your job and you are promoted to a certain level, you can work in HQ, it's clearly stated there, and the company sponsor your location and everything that is required. So the performance management is an essential tool for managing HR across multiple Africa countries. It helps to align employee performance with organizational goals, improve productivity, ensuring consistency and fairness, promote employee development, and motivate employees to excel in their roles. As such, HR managers should prioritize performance management as part of their overall HR strategy for managing diverse workforce across multiple Africa countries. So prioritize that. If you must get the best, if you need to retain the best, use performance management. And the beautiful part of it, when you use performance management, you will know who and who is doing what, even when you are not in that country. You know, oh, this is the performance of this employee. This is the performance of this employee. Even when you are not there, their result is speaking for them. So you don't need to be in that country for you to know who is performing and who is not performing. By their result, you already know because the system is clearly stated. In the advent of technology, it's now more easier for you to know that, because you'll be using software that everybody, if anybody logged in from any country, you can access it. You can see who and who has applied, who has done his performance management, who is called, what the line manager score is not hidden. It's not that, oh, we are going to do it somewhere secretly. This is what the manager gave this person. Everybody sees it on the portal. It's seen. So you as an HR, you have access to see who and who is performing, and you can effectively now know, oh, this is what this person will need to do for this person. Are we to place this person on performance improvement plan? Do we need to now begin to organize training, that tailored training that will make this person competent in this skill that this person lacks? So the performance system gives you that avenue to be able to see and also to advise management effectively. So it's very important if you have to have the vision of working for multinational to also ensure that the performance management system is standard, is across board. You can see it anywhere, what the line manager are commenting about that person. If the line manager is right or is wrong, you can easily call the person in charge and do your investigation. Your manager make a recommendation in the portal. This is what the manager, what is the problem? So from there, you'll be able to know how to advise your management. Also, from that performance management system, you now have to develop training and also development for the person who's not meeting up with his goal. Once training needs have been identified through the performance management system, HR manager tailor training program to meet the specific needs of employees across different countries. This may involve developing different training programs for different regions, language, or cultures to ensure that the training is relevant and engaging. As HR practitioner, don't make the mistake to think everybody understands your language and you are formulating a training plan which you are not putting that into consideration. It's a consider cultural difference. Africa is a diverse continent with different culture, language, and custom. Consideration of these cultural differences, which developing training program should be a priority. So you must put that into consideration and priority to put certain training. I know there are, because of cultural boundary, because of the cultural limitation, there are some parts of North Africa that you can only employ female for certain positions, which I hope that will change, no distance anyway. So if you are working in those kind of countries or region, you also have to put that into consideration. Language barrier, also you have to put that into consideration. Don't come up with training plan and the facilitator is speaking English when the person doesn't understand English, or the facilitator is speaking French when the person doesn't understand French, or the facilitator is speaking German or Chinese when the person you are trying to help to be better employee doesn't understand what you are saying. So it therefore means that the training is of no use, not relevant to the person. There's no way the employee can gain meaningfully from such training, because in the first place, you have created a barrier, you have created an hindrance for the person's skills to be enhanced. So you should be able to know that. Even if you don't eventually don't understand the language, there should be consultants in those countries, training consultant you can engage to put those persons on performance improvement plan, to teach them what you have already, the subject you have already recommended, you have discovered to be the lessons the person has. So it's very important. Another aspect also, if your company cannot actually afford to engage a consultant, you can use online platform, virtual classes, which is much cheaper. Webinars, you can also do that to reach any employee, and there's no limitation to it. You say, oh, because this person is in this country, I need to buy a flight ticket to that country and begin to seek for approval. What if that approval is not given, and the delay alone, we make sure that we ensure that that objective is not utilized. So it's very important. It's important you use the online platform to deliver your lectures. If the management still wants you to be in that country, fine. But using the online platform will be much cheaper and also faster, and you reach the person on time. And apart from that, the person can also go back after that lecture has been done. Excuse me. The person can actually go back to the recording to go through whatever has been taught, just like what we're having today. The next one is compensation. Sorry. Compensation and benefits. If you are talking about compensation, for instance, you also have to put the living cost don't make a blanket compensation policy without putting into consideration those those people in the other country, because when you do that, you will be shorting some people out of the benefits that you think is much. At the end of the day, when they convert it to their currency, it will be minimal. The cost of living have taken a chunk of what benefits you are giving them. He said, often once training needs have been identified, an HRO manager should sorry, it was supposed to be compensation and benefits. Put that into consideration, the training, the competition and benefits. You also have to put the peculiarity of those countries, the living cost. What does the per capita of that country stay before you can be able to bring everybody aboard? Like the promotional part I told you about, let everybody also be aware of what they are entitled to. And another thing I didn't mention, if you have to also have to manage people, manage human capital across Africa country, there will be time for people to move from one point to another. You also have to be aware of their immigration law. If you're managing expatriates, for instance, that doesn't have ECOWAS passport, you have to know their immigration law. You won't want a situation where somebody will get to a country and they stop at the point of entry. Because when that happens, the first call they are going to call, they will call the person who's in that country. They will call you because they expected you to be able to manage your people in that department. So it's very important you also know the expatriate management and movement within those countries, what their requirements, so that you can advise the expatriate that will be going to that country so that his documents can be right. It save cost for the company, we save time, because when an expatriate is delayed at the point of entry, not only will your company not incur costs, we also have wasted time. Maybe there is that time to the system and they will only have the personnel in your country to go over to that country to rectify it. That time is wasted, and the clients will understand what is going on, but they expected to bring their system up. So it's expected that your document, you must be able to get the document of your expatriate rights. Know the immigration law at the tip of your hand. Even if you don't know it, let your representative in those countries be able to advise you what is expected in terms of movement. In conclusion, managing HR across multiple African countries require deep understanding of local cultures, laws, and economic system. HR professional must adapt this practice to meet the needs of local employees and build strong relationships with local community. By following up best practices, HR can play a critical role in driving business success in Africa. If you are working in multinational that believe in corporate social responsibility, you would just want your companies to go and cite social responsibility contracts or projects in a certain community your company operates in without even knowing what they want. The community should be able to tell you, this is what we want. There is a particular case in Nigeria. It was one of West Africa. We wanted to do a project for them, but they told us no, they don't need the project, they needed the money. So if you don't know that these people needed the money and you are setting such project, at the end of the day, the aim of the project you want to do will not be achieved, because the objective of the people is quite different from your own objective. To you, it might be right to do certain that kind of project, but to them, it's not useful to them. So know what the community needs, know what the employees in those countries also need as well. So at this point, the floor is open. Thank you very much. I also tell you that this is the time for questions. You can follow Mr. Oluyemi on Twitter and Instagram at Tellest Ninja, while on LinkedIn and Facebook at Oluyemi Adeoshu. Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Oluyemi, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony. That was an excellent session.
Thank you.
Brilliant presentation. Thank you so much for this around this. I'm saying this so that people who want to share their own experience can make up their mind and raise up their hands so that we can call them. I used to work with a particular organization in Nigeria at that time. That organization, a big brand, but when they hire locals, they didn't used to give them employment on their letterhead. So they had, let me say, relationship with other companies, or they created other companies. So let me use an example. So let's say the organization is X Limited. When X Limited hires you, it will now give you offer letter of B Limited, C Limited, D Limited. All those companies too are legal, but they are not popular. Now, however, when X Limited hires maybe an expatriate, they will give the expatriates a letterhead offer, who will not accept the offer letter on the letterhead of A, B, C, or D Limited. Fast forward a few years later, that same company enters into Benin Republic and then wants to deploy the same strategy. So like the first 200 staff, they are in less than 48 hours, they Benin Ministry of, they are in less than a week, they had to organizations real name. They could not use a proxy. It was a rude reawakening. What they were doing in Nigeria, and nobody was making any fuss around it, no issue, no challenge. In that same Benin, another rude awakening they got was that, as at that time, by the time you are issuing a query to a staff in your organization, you have to copy the equivalent of the Ministry of Labor, the local office in the query. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, you don't need to copy any external body in a query. Now, why is the Benin law like that? Maybe they don't want you to just be issuing queries frivolously without a germane reason. Two, maybe they want to be able to track employees and track organization. To cut the long story short, if in Nigeria we were having like 20 queries per day, in Benin, guess what? We are having like maybe one query in 6 months. The reason is, anytime you want to issue an employee query, you will think twice because you will copy the Ministry of Labor. So if it is something you could have ordinarily had a conversation with the employee and call him to order, you won't go through the route of you, because you will use the query, send a copy to the Ministry of Labor. Then when the person is responding, copy the Ministry of Labor. You don't want to look stupid before the government. Now, if you don't know these tiny details, you can say Shebi is just Benin there. I'm coming from into trouble. I'll share one more or two examples around the same Benin, just the same Benin. You know, in Nigeria, maybe you are supposed to remit your taxes as an organization. So this is not an HR example. It's a finance example. But HR people need to know, because we as HR, we must be conversant with the entire business end to end. So in Nigeria, maybe you are supposed to remit your payee, for example, on or before the, say this is hypothetical. I'm using it as hypothetical, so don't use the date. Say this 7th day of a new month. In Nigeria, the 7th day can pass. It can even enter the 15th day. Nothing will happen. Do you understand? Guess what? In Benin, if you are supposed to have paid certain tax, maybe corporate tax to the Beninois government, say by the 5th of a new month, by that 5th, if you don't pay, what will happen? You will just get a debit alert from the bank, direct. So they will do what we call like BOJ. BOJ means best of judgment. So let's assume that on the average, you've been paying, say, 2 million CFAs. Do you know what they will do? They will debit you like 4 million CFAs. So you will now have to maybe approach the government, apologize for not remitting the tax, provide whatever reasons. You now try to say, government, this is the actual tax you should have paid. Guess what? They will refund you the excess. They will now give you like a tax credit for future months, and then you will pay penalty. Never in your life in Benin would you miss your tax payment again. The last thing I would like to share about this same Benin. So Benin is just a metaphor for you to realize that once you are going to any country, can be serial low, ask questions, if possible, pay a visit, talk to people. Don't ask. We are far apart in many things, and I'm sure Mr. Anthony can testify. You know, in Nigeria, we typically work 8 to 5. In Benin, it's not like that. I think they do maybe 7 or 7:30 to like 12 or 1. Then they take a 2 or 3 hour break, and then they come back around 3 and then close at 6. In Benin, Saturday is actually a working day, but they do half day. So they typically go to work around 8 and close 12:31. So you will see that in Benin, most parties or functions happen Saturday afternoon or evening, not in the morning. This is just Benin. That is like 2 hours drive from us. Okay, so it is very important that please, once you are crossing the border with your organization's operations, or you have an interview with an organization that the role is multi-country or multi-geographic, don't assume. HR, Nigeria, labor law, you cannot extrapolate because that's what some of us do. You just think, oh, I know labor law. You now begin to extrapolate it and apply it to Gambia. You may be in for a shocker. Okay, but just to also put it out there on the general note that the Francophone countries have a little similarity. So it may be almost easy for somebody who is very conversant with Benin law to operate in Togo. It won't be the same, but the similarities in the Benin labor environment will be closer than Nigeria and Togo. In short, Nigeria and Ghana will be more similar than Nigeria and Benin, even though Benin is closer to Nigeria. Why? So there is this also part of what influence or impact the cultural differences, then the legal framework. So, you know, Nigeria and Ghana got a lot from the British. Then Togo, for example, from France. So this, we just wanted to share share to contribute to this discourse. And if you have any question or you have clarification or you want to just share an experience, it may help 1 or 2 people here. And if you don't have a question or a suggestion, can somebody give the vote of thanks? At least somebody should say something. That's what I'm trying to say. So who would like to say something? At least a comment from someone, what you have given today. Anthony, it looks like people are afraid you may deploy them to Gambia. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I
thank
also
you, ladies and gentlemen.
applying to for location.
I must sincerely thank Mr. Anthony for this excellent session. I remember he reached out to me via LinkedIn. I know everybody, because they didn't see anything, we'll move them, we'll redeploy them, we'll talk to their HR, they'll so that they can be big boys and big girls on the small island of 200 people. Just raise up your hand and I'll meet you. We are not just, let me see, I think somebody wants to, if you just raise your hand, we'll just unmute you. It's as easy as that. Okay, let me unmute us since. Okay, you can unmute now. Okay, Edward Davis.
Hello everyone.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Hello, nice speaking to you, Brother Oluyemi.
Same here, sir.
It has been nice following your programs on weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I am Edward Davis, calling from Freetown, Sierra Leone, and this is the program. We know we are all busy, but planning quite well. So thanks again to
I can barely hear you, sir. Okay.
Yes, many thanks again to our presenter for this evening, Anthony, for providing those insights for HR professionals trying or managing teams that cut across borders. I would just like to share some few examples for Sierra Leone. So for instance, if we have operations that cross borders into maybe Guinea or Liberia, as you've rightly mentioned, we have to be mindful of certain processes and even the tax. For Sierra Leone, we annually review our finances. So for 2023, President is about to sign the finance for 2023. So I assume it should be the same or replicated in other countries. So as HR professionals, we have teams that are in Liberia, in Guinea, in Ivory Coast. We have to be mindful to ensure that all those updates within the tax schedule and regime and all those changes in laws, these are things that we have to know, because as they say, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And managing such things that cross borders, we have people that are indigenous of those countries. So we have to be with a team of people that understands their culture, their traditions, their settings, so that when we go there to work with them, we can build on their existing system and help improve them so that our companies can function and thrive in whatever industry that we operate. So as it's just an advice to colleagues that we should not only pay attention to the labor and the regulation and the law, but the taxes, these are things that will affect us, because if we are preparing payrolls for we have people that are internationals, and then for internationals, their schedule and the way you prepare their taxes is quite different from locals. So you have to be mindful of all those little points. You operate in darkness or go blind, you will be caught, and then you can put your company into a big problem and into a big mess. So even for us in Sierra Leone now, today is the 14th of April. These are dates that people need to understand. If you want to lodge your tax, all electronic. You want to do lodgement, you want to do payment, all payments are due on or before the 15th of the following month. So we are all giving 2 weeks into the new month. So for March, all payments will be lodged and paid today being the 14th, come Monday being the 17th, interest and penalties will apply. So these are all the little corners as HR and finance we need to pay attention to so that we can help companies eliminate all those wastages, all those areas where you don't need to spend unnecessary. So if you know you have to come on before the 15th, and today is quite a good example. Today is the 14th, and tomorrow.
I sincerely wish Mr. Edwards' voice is louder because he's making very salient points.
Yes.
Pierre is using mouthpiece, it's not audible enough for us to be able to clearly hear him.
And he's making very important points. Because the pieces the parts I could hear, I could feel the value was trying to add. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. David. We are struggling at using earpiece or handpiece, share with us. Do we have any other person? You can just unmute and speak. All right. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Anthony. We do not take this for granted.
It's my pleasure, sir.
You have, like those apostles that say silver and gold, they have not. I would say silver and gold, we don't have a lot. We have something, but we don't have a lot. But we won't give you that small we have. Okay. But we would like to bless you, like to appreciate you, and would like you to know that you will come back again very soon.
Oh,
to share
you.
with distinguished audience. Thank you so much. And many thanks to everyone who joined tonight. Au revoir. Or how do they say it in French, Mr. Anthony?
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Yeah, everyone is welcome. Bon appétit.
Thank you, Mr. Davis Edwards. Odaro, okay.
All right.